August 21, 1997. A sweltering summer night in Louisiana. 8-year-old Lily Grace Harper stands under the outdoor shower beside the community pool, cool water rinsing the sharp smell of chlorine from her long auburn hair. Children's laughter still echoes across the deck, floodlights blaze over the entire area, and parents are only a few steps away. In the blink of an eye, less than 2 minutes, Lily vanishes. No scream, no footprints in the gravel, no signs of a struggle. No witness sees the little girl leave, and no one notices the quiet older man who had been standing outside the fence all evening. For 28 years, her family searched in desperation until a single rootless hair, preserved from decades ago, finally spoke, thanks to cutting-edge DNA technology. August 21, 1997, Pine Ridge Community Pool, Lafayette Parish, Louisiana, 10:32 p.m. The humid air hung heavy with the smell of chlorine, grilled hot dogs from the concession stand, and the sweet stickiness of spilled snow cones. Cicadas screamed in the live oaks that ringed the chain-link fence. Floodlights buzzed overhead, turning the rectangular pool into a glowing turquoise rectangle in the dark. The parish summer swim meet had ended 20 minutes earlier. Ribbons still fluttered from the scoreboard. Parents lingered on the concrete deck, folding lawn chairs, gathering towels, letting the kids have one last swim while they packed up. 8-year-old Lily Grace Harper stood under the outdoor shower near the parking lot, eyes closed, face tilted up into the cool spray. She was rinsing chlorine from her long auburn hair, humming a song she'd made up about being a mermaid. Her navy blue gaiters swimsuit clung to her small frame. Flip-flops lay kicked off beside her. She was 4 feet 4 inches tall, 65 pounds, with a faint scar on her left knee shaped like a lightning bolt, and the first glimmers of braces on her lower teeth. Her cousins, ages 7 and 9, were splashing in the shallow end, waiting for her. Her father, Michael Harper, was 20 yards away near the gate, stacking chairs with other dads. Her mother, Laura, was helping a friend load ice chests into a minivan. Everyone could see the shower from where they were. It felt safe. Pine Ridge was the kind of small Louisiana town where people waved at strangers and left keys in their ignitions. Lily finished rinsing, turned off the water, and shook her head like a dog. Her cousins called, "Come on, Lily, one more cannonball." She bent to grab her flip-flops. That was the last moment anyone saw her. No scream, no splash, no running footsteps on gravel. Just the sudden, impossible absence of an 8-year-old who had been standing in plain sight seconds earlier. Her cousins noticed first. They climbed out of the pool, dripping, looking around. "Lily?" No answer. They ran to the shower. Empty. Towels still hanging on the hook. Flip-flops still there. Suit gone, if she had even put it back on. Panic spread like spilled ink. Michael sprinted across the deck, shouting her name. Parents fanned out, checking bathrooms, concession stand, behind the equipment shed. Someone dialed 911 on a bulky flip phone. Deputies arrived in 8 minutes, record time for rural Louisiana. By 11 p.m., the pool was a crime scene. Floodlights swept the parking lot. Divers suited up to search the deep end, even though everyone knew she hadn't gone back in the water. Canine units arrived from Lafayette. The first helicopters thumped overhead by midnight. The children who were closest to Lily that night, her cousins and 2 other swim team friends, became the most important witnesses law enforcement would ever have. They all remembered the same quiet older man. He had been there most of the evening, standing outside the fence near the parking area, hands in his pockets, watching the meet, but never clapping or cheering for any particular swimmer. He wore wire-rimmed glasses, a short-sleeved plaid shirt tucked into belted khakis, and worn brown work boots. Thin gray hair combed over a balding spot. soft-spoken rural accent when he asked a concession worker for directions to the restroom. The kids noticed him because he didn't seem to belong. No grandchild competing, no family on the deck. He just watched. Around 10:15, one of the cousins saw him leaning against an older full-size green van parked at the far edge of the lot, away from the other cars. Rust along the bottom rails, no side windows except two small ones high up. Louisiana plates, but the kids couldn't read the number in the dark. When the cousins turned away from the shower to grab the towels, they later realized the man had been standing only 15 feet from Lily. Then both he and she were gone. The van was gone too. Within 48 hours, investigators uncovered two earlier incidents that froze everyone's blood. That same afternoon, hours before the meet, a 9-year-old boy at a snowball stand 2 miles away told his mother an older man in a green van had offered him candy and asked for help finding a lost puppy. When the boy hesitated, the man opened the side door just enough for the child to see the dark interior. The boy ran. Description matched perfectly. The next morning, August 22nd, a 7-year-old girl leaving church day camp 10 miles north said a man in a green van tried to convince her there were kittens inside that needed feeding. She refused and told her counselor immediately. Again, the same calm voice, same glasses, same van. Authorities connected the dots fast. 1 predator, 3 attempts in under 24 hours, 2 failed, 1 succeeded.
The search exploded across South Louisiana. 400 volunteers in the first weekend alone. Grid searches through cane fields, bayous, abandoned rice farms. Flyers with Lily's smiling face went up from Baton Rouge to Lake Charles. Every green van in 3 parishes was stopped and checked. Michael and Laura moved into the community center that became search headquarters. They slept on cots when they slept at all. Michael, a diesel mechanic who rarely spoke in front of crowds, found himself on local news every night, begging for information. The town wrapped around them like family, even though they weren't locals. Meals appeared, gas cards, prayer vigils that stretched into the early hours. A church youth group printed 10,000 flyers in one weekend. But days turned into weeks, then months. The helicopters stopped. The national news moved on. Lily Grace Harper was gone. The first Christmas without Lily was unbearable. The tree stayed half decorated. Presents bought in July sat unopened in a closet. Michael drove every back road in the parish for months, stopping at every isolated barn, every overgrown field, calling her name until his voice gave out. Laura kept Lily's room exactly as it was, bed made, stuffed animals lined up, swim ribbons on the corkboard. They separated for 6 months in 1999, not from lack of love, but from the sheer weight of sharing the same grief. Counseling helped. Time helped a little. They came back together quieter, scarred, but still holding on. In late 1999, Michael did something that surprised everyone who knew him as the reserved man who fixed 18-wheelers for a living. He founded the Lily Grace Foundation. It started in one borrowed Sunday school room with a donated computer and a phone line. The mission was raw and simple. Be there the moment another family heard the words no parent should ever hear, and teach kids how to protect themselves without terrifying them. The first safety program was written by Michael and a child psychologist volunteer. Bright colors, cartoons, simple rules. Your body belongs to you. No secrets from mom or dad. Yell, run, tell. If something feels wrong, make noise. They took it into schools for free. Michael stood in front of classrooms of second graders and told them, without ever saying Lily's name, that once a little girl trusted a stranger and disappeared. He watched them absorb it, eyes wide, then ask smart questions. Something hardened inside him, turned into resolve.
By 2002, the foundation had a small office, 3 paid staff, and a contract to train every public elementary school in the parish. Louisiana lawmakers invited Michael to testify. In 2003, they passed one of the nation's first statewide child abduction alert systems. They named it the Lily Grace Alert. Every activation still sends Michael an automatic text. He reads it with his heart in his throat, then exhales when most end with "child located safe." The investigation never truly went cold, but leads thinned. Aged, progressed images came every few years, each one a fresh wound. Lily at 12, braces and freckles. At 18, tall and confident. At 25, a young woman with Laura's eyes. Michael kept them in a folder he rarely opened. Media cycles flared and faded. 2003, a national true crime show profiled the case. Tips flooded in. Nothing panned out. 2007, a tabloid claimed a psychic had seen Lily alive in Florida. Michael flew there himself. False hope, crushing return. 2011, an anonymous tip led to a 3-day dig at an abandoned crawfish farm. Cadaver dogs alerted. Excavators found only old animal bones. 2015, on the 18th anniversary, the foundation launched a billboard campaign along I-10. "Have you seen me?" above Lily's latest progression. Through it all, one name lingered in old case files but never rose to the top: Harold Dean Carver. Born 1928, Korea veteran, longtime diesel mechanic, lived in a single-wide trailer outside Carencro, 20 minutes from Pine Ridge. Known to local law enforcement for escalating offenses. 1979, indecent exposure, charges dropped. 1988, fondling a neighbor child, suspended sentence. 1993, 12-year-old runaway found in his trailer, pleaded to lesser charge, probation. In November 1997, 3 months after Lily vanished, Carver was caught trying to lure a 9-year-old from a Carencro playground with promises of kittens in his van. The girl screamed. A groundskeeper intervened. Carver fled, sideswiped a fence, left green paint. Witnesses got part of the plate. Arrested the next day driving the same 1988 Dodge van. Detectives asked about Lily. He claimed no memory of August 21st. Took a polygraph. Passed, or at least scored truthful. With no physical evidence and dozens of other leads, investigators moved on. Carver was convicted of attempted kidnapping in 1998, sentenced to 8 years. Died in prison in 2002 of heart failure at age 72. When the van was searched in 1997, technicians found navy blue polyester fibers consistent with swim team suits and several rootless hairs. 1990s technology couldn't do more. Evidence boxed, stored, largely forgotten. No one noticed that 4 days after Lily disappeared, Carver poured a new concrete pad behind his trailer. In 2016, retired Lafayette Parish detective Paul Guidry couldn't let the case go. He spent evenings in his garage reading microfiche and old reports. One detail kept bothering him: the polygraph. Modern understanding showed they were unreliable with certain personality types, especially chronic offenders who felt little guilt or heavy drinkers who blunted anxiety responses. Guidry pulled everything on Carver again. Timeline fit. Van matched. Criminal history escalated perfectly. Proximity perfect. And that concrete pad poured days after the abduction. He took his findings to the current lead detective, Elena Broussard, a sharp 30-something who had grown up hearing about the Lily Harper case. Broussard listened, then did something no one had tried in years. She tracked the van. After Carver's death, it was auctioned, sold 3 times, finally landing with a Baton Rouge mechanic who used it for parts runs. He had no idea of its history. When Broussard explained, he handed over the keys without hesitation. Spring 2018. Forensic teams spent 4 days dismantling the van in a secure bay. Vacuums, scrapers, UV lights, tape lifts. They found mouse nests, receipts from 2005, and, buried in carpet backing and seat brackets, microscopic navy blue polyester fibers and several rootless hairs. Fibers went to the state lab, compared to a preserved sample of 1997 Gators swimsuit material, identical dye, weave, wear pattern. Hairs were sent to a private lab in Colorado specializing in degraded samples. Cost $9,800, funded half by state grant, half by the Lily Grace Foundation. 14 months of waiting. July 2020. Results. 1 hair shaft yielded enough mitochondrial DNA for a familial match, first-degree relative to Michael and Laura Harper. No family member had ever met Carver. No family member had ever been in his van. Conclusion: inescapable. The hair was Lily's. More evidence trickled in. A former neighbor remembered Carver burning trash in a barrel days after the disappearance, unusual in August heat. A hunting buddy recalled Carver once joking about a perfect spot no one would ever find, deep in the Atchafalaya Basin. In November 2024, Sheriff Marcus Lantier held a press conference in the same community center that once housed search headquarters. Harold Dean Carver, deceased since 2002, is now the sole suspect in the abduction of Lily Grace Harper. Michael spoke briefly. "We know who took her. That answers one question we've carried for 27 years. But we still need the bigger answer. Where is she? If you knew Carver, if he ever said anything strange that summer, ever asked for help with something unusual, please come forward now. He's gone. He can't hurt anyone else. But finding Lily can still bring us home." The foundation today is far beyond the single room it started in. A brick building on the outskirts of Lafayette, 11 staff, 2 therapy dogs, a warehouse of search equipment, drones, thermal cameras, portable printers for flyers. When a child goes missing, foundation teams often arrive before some official units. They've responded to over 400 cases. Most end well. Every safe return is logged quietly, celebrated privately. Education reaches 35,000 to 40,000 children annually. Programs evolved with the times: online safety, recognizing grooming on gaming platforms, what to do if approached in a parking lot, always empowerment over fear. Michael has testified for stronger laws, longer sentences for attempted luring, better interstate tracking of offenders, funding for advanced forensics in cold cases. He co-founded a national peer support network for families of long-term missing children, monthly Zoom calls where no one has to explain why they still buy their child's favorite cereal or keep a bedroom untouched. The current search phase is narrower but deeper. Investigators mapped Carver's life in granular detail. Every hunting lease he used, every fishing spot off grid roads, every place he worked cash jobs in 1997. They re-interviewed dozens. A former coworker who remembered Carver coming in late and agitated the week after August 21st. A stepson who admitted Carver once showed him a secluded clearing in the basin and said, "Good place to hide something you don't want found." A bar buddy who recalled Carver getting drunk one night in 1998 and muttering, "I did something bad once, but nobody'll ever prove it." Ground-penetrating radar has scanned the old concrete pad multiple times. Results remain ambiguous. Roots, shifting soil. Excavation is a last resort. Divers have searched 6 remote bayous Carver favored. Nothing yet. Billboards refreshed in 2025 show Lily at age 36. Tip lines still active. Michael, now in his late 50s, gray-haired and softer around the middle, still speaks to schools, still answers the alert texts with held breath, still scans every green van on the highway. He no longer hates Carver. Hate takes energy I need for the living, for the kids we teach, for the families we sit with at 3 a.m. when hope feels impossible. Every April 14th, Lily's Day, the foundation hosts Lily's Day. Community pools open free. Kids learn water safety and personal safety. Blue balloons rise at sunset. Michael stands at the edge, watching children laugh and splash. Sometimes, for a heartbeat, he sees auburn hair flash under the lights. Then the moment passes, and he goes back to work. Because Lily Grace Harper is still missing. Because somewhere in Louisiana, answers wait beneath cypress or concrete or conscience. Because one father's refusal to let tragedy end in silence has protected thousands of children who will never know her name. And because love, stubborn and steady, outlasts even the darkest night. By the time the DNA results arrived in the summer of 2020, Michael Harper had already lived more than half his life with a hole in the shape of his daughter. The pandemic had shut down much of the world, but cold case work didn't stop. Detective Elena Broussard called him personally on a July afternoon, so hot the air shimmered above the asphalt outside his shop. "Michael, we have something. It's not everything we want, but it's big." She explained the hair, the familial match, the logical conclusion. Michael listened in silence, leaning against a grease-stained workbench, the phone pressed hard to his ear. When she finished, he asked only one question. "Does this mean she's gone?" Broussard hesitated. "It means she was in that van. What happened after, we still don't know, but we're going to keep looking until we do."
Michael hung up, walked out back behind the shop, and sat on an overturned 5-gallon bucket. He didn't cry. He'd used up most of his tears years ago. Instead, he stared at the bayou that ran behind the property. Slow brown water, cypress knees, dragonflies skimming the surface, and felt the old familiar weight settle deeper. Clarity, but not closure. The announcement in November 2024 was carefully planned. No big media circus, just local reporters, a few national outlets that had followed the case for decades, and the people who had never stopped caring. Sheriff Lantier spoke first, laying out the timeline, the evidence, the re-examination of the van. Then Detective Broussard detailed the forensic process, the fibers, the rootless hair, the Colorado lab's painstaking work pulling genetic markers from a shaft most labs would have dismissed as useless. Michael went last. He stood at the podium in the same community center where he and Laura had once slept on cots, surrounded by maps and empty coffee cups. The room smelled faintly of floor wax and old coffee, same as it had 27 years earlier. "I've thought about this moment for a long time," he began, voice low but steady. "Imagined what I'd say if we ever knew who took Lily. I thought I'd be angry. I thought I'd want revenge. But standing here today, all I feel is tired and grateful. Grateful to every person who never gave up on her." He paused, looked directly at the cameras. "Harold Dean Carver stole my little girl. He stole her from her mother, from her cousins, from every birthday and Christmas and first day of school she should have had. But he didn't steal her from us completely. Because every time a Lily Grace alert saves a child, she's there. Every time a kid in one of our programs runs to a safe adult instead of getting in a stranger's van, she's there. Every time a parent hugs their child a little tighter because they heard her story, she's there." His voice cracked only once. "We know who. Now we need to know where. If you knew Carver, if you hunted with him, worked with him, drank with him, fixed his truck, went to church with him, think back to the summer of 1997. Did he act strange? Did he disappear for a day or two? Did he ask for help moving something heavy? Did he ever take you somewhere isolated and say something that didn't sit right? Those memories might feel small now, but they could be everything to us." He ended with the tip line numbers, then stepped away from the microphone. Afterward, in the hallway, a reporter asked if knowing the suspect's name brought him peace. Michael thought for a long moment. Peace? No. But it brings direction. We're not chasing ghosts anymore. We're chasing one man's secrets, and secrets don't stay buried forever. The investigation since the announcement has been methodical, almost quiet. Detectives have built a map of Carver's world in 1997. Every road he drove regularly, every place he stopped for coffee or beer, every hunting lease he had access to. They've walked those leases with cadaver dogs trained to detect decades-old remains. So far, nothing definitive. They've interviewed more than 60 people who crossed Carver's path. A former co-worker at a Lafayette equipment yard who remembered Carver taking 2 unexplained days off right after the disappearance, coming back sunburned and jumpy. A bartender at a roadside honky-tonk who said Carver sat alone one night in late August, staring into his beer, muttering, "Sometimes you do something and you can't undo it." A distant cousin who inherited the trailer property and has allowed unlimited access for searches. He admitted he always thought Carver was off, but never imagined something this dark. The concrete pad remains the biggest unanswered question. Ground-penetrating radar surveys, 3 separate ones using different equipment, show anomalies consistent with soil disturbance beneath the slab. But tree roots, old utility lines, and shifting clay make interpretation difficult. Full excavation would mean jackhammering the entire pad, digging by hand, screening every bucket of dirt. It would destroy the current owner's backyard and cost tens of thousands of dollars. Investigators are waiting for one more advanced scan scheduled for spring 2026 before deciding whether to dig. Meanwhile, the Atchafalaya Basin searches continue. Carver was known to disappear into the swamp for days at a time, fishing, trapping, or just getting away, he told people. Search teams have used side-scan sonar on deep channels, airboats with ground-penetrating equipment on higher ground, drones with thermal and LiDAR. They found sunken boats, lost crab traps, even a stolen car from the 1980s, but no trace of Lily. Michael joins some of the searches when he can. He's not as young as he used to be. Knees ache from years of mechanical work, back stiff from too many nights on bad cots, but he still walks grid lines when invited. He says being out there, even when they find nothing, feels better than sitting home wondering. Laura goes less often now. She channels her energy into the Foundation's family support program, sitting with newly grieving parents, answering the phone at 2 a.m. when someone needs to talk. She says the work keeps her from drowning. They still live in the same house they bought the year Lily was born. Her room is no longer frozen in time. Over the years, it became an office for the Foundation, but her artwork still hangs in the hallway, and her favorite stuffed dolphin sits on a shelf in the living room where everyone can see it. Every year on August 21st, they close the Foundation office. The whole staff goes to a different community pool for a safety day. They teach kids how to float, how to spot a lie from an adult, how to make noise if someone tries to take them. At sunset, they release blue balloons, one for every year Lily has been gone. The first few years, Michael couldn't watch the balloons rise. Now he stands with Laura, hand in hers, and watches until the last one disappears into the clouds. He no longer prays for a miracle. He prays for resolution. For the day someone remembers the right detail. For the day radar sees what eyes cannot. For the day they can bring her home and lay her to rest under Louisiana soil, near the water she loved. Because until then, the search isn't over. Because until then, Lily Grace Harper is still out there, 8 years old forever, auburn hair wet from the shower, humming her mermaid song under the floodlights, waiting. To understand why Harold Dean Carver was able to take Lily and vanish into the night, you have to understand the world he lived in and the cracks he slipped through. He was born in 1928 in a shotgun house outside Ville Platte,
one of 6 kids in a sharecropper family. Korea took him young. He came back quieter, harder to read. Worked as a diesel mechanic most of his life. Good with engines, not so good with people. Neighbors described him as polite but distant, kept to himself, liked to hunt and fish alone. Drank steadily but rarely got loud. Went to church sporadically, always sat in the back. His criminal history started late but followed a clear pattern. 1979, arrested for exposing himself to 2 girls riding bikes near his trailer. Victims' families didn't want the girls to testify. Charges dropped. 1988, 10-year-old neighbor came forward saying Carver touched her inappropriately over several months. He pleaded to a lesser charge, got probation and an order to attend church counseling. No registry requirement. Louisiana's sex offender registry didn't exist yet. 1993, a 12-year-old runaway spent 2 nights in his trailer. When found, she said nothing sexual happened, but circumstances were suspicious. Carver pleaded to contributing to delinquency, another probation term, still no prison. By 1997, he was off paper entirely, free to move around small towns, hang around playgrounds, park outside swim meets. The system had multiple chances to stop him and didn't take them. Plea deals to spare child victims the trauma of trial. Judges who saw him as a harmless old man. No centralized way to track repeat offenders across parishes. He learned he could push boundaries and face minimal consequences. The November 1997 playground incident should have been the end of him, but again, the system blinked. When questioned about Lily, he gave calm, vague answers. The polygraph, administered by an examiner who later admitted he wasn't comfortable with the results, scored no deception indicated. Detectives, drowning in tips, moved on. Carver went to prison in 1998 for the playground attempt, but only for 8 years. He died 4 years into the sentence, heart failure, in the prison infirmary, alone. He took whatever he knew about Lily to the grave, or so it seemed for 22 years. Now investigators are asking a different question. Did he ever tell anyone? Predators sometimes hint, brag, test reactions, especially to other outcasts, drinking buddies, people they think won't judge. Detectives have found 3 men who spent significant time with Carver in the 1990s. 2 are still alive. Both have been interviewed multiple times. One, an old hunting partner, says Carver once, after several beers, talked about doing something bad a long time ago, but shut down when pressed. The other, a former co-worker, remembers Carver showing him Polaroids of young girls in swimsuits, claiming they were nieces. The man thought it was creepy, but said nothing. Both men carry guilt now. Both are cooperating fully. Investigators believe Carver likely acted alone. His pattern was solitary, but they haven't ruled out the possibility he had help disposing of evidence or remains. They're also looking at whether he had other victims. Cold case units in 3 parishes are reviewing unsolved child disappearances and attempts from the 1970s through the 1990s. So far, no direct links, but the behavioral profile matches several cases that went nowhere. Carver's family has been cooperative but devastated. His stepson told detectives, "I always knew he was capable of bad things, but I never thought this." The trailer where he lived burned down in 2008. Arson suspected, never solved. Some wonder if someone tried to destroy evidence. Most of the land around it is still accessible for search. The story of Harold Dean Carver is a cautionary tale about what happens when the justice system treats child predation as a minor offense. He should never have been free in August 1997, but he was. And because he was, Lily Grace Harper is still missing. They've learned hard lessons. Some families want privacy and distance themselves. Some cling too tightly and burn out volunteers. Some cases end in tragedy, and the foundation helps plan funerals. But most children are found safe, and that keeps everyone going. In 2025, the foundation broke ground on a permanent training center outside Lafayette, classrooms, canine facility, simulation areas for search practice. They named it the Lily Grace Harper Center. Michael turned the first shovel of dirt himself. He looked at the empty field and saw not just a building, but thousands of children who would learn to protect themselves because his daughter couldn't. That's how he measures her life now, not by the years she didn't get, but by the years she's given others. The disappearance of Lily Grace Harper didn't just change one family. It exposed cracks in the system wide enough for a predator to walk through, and in the years since, it has helped patch some of those cracks. First, the justice system. In the 1970s, 80s, and early 90s, child sexual offenses were often treated as misdemeanors or low-level felonies. Plea deals were common to spare young victims the trauma of testifying. Sentences were light. Sex offender registries either didn't exist or were local and ineffective. Harold Dean Carver benefited from all of that. 3 known incidents. 3 times the system gave him another chance. By 1997, he had no active probation, no monitoring, no requirement to stay away from places children gathered. He parked outside a community pool and waited. After Lily's case became public, Louisiana lawmakers began to change things. 1998, expanded sex offender registration law, requiring public notification for certain offenders. 2003, the Lily Grace Alert became one of the first statewide systems modeled on Amber Alerts. 2006, tougher penalties for attempted luring and failure to register. 2012, mandatory minimums for repeat child predators. Michael testified for many of those bills. He never raised his voice. He just told the committees what it felt like to know the man who took his daughter had been caught before and let go. Judges started listening. Nationally, Lily's case became a textbook example in law enforcement training on stranger abductions, the rarest kind, but the most feared. Instructors use it to teach, listen to child witnesses. The cousin's description of the quiet older man in wire-rimmed glasses was accurate down to the boots. Don't rely solely on polygraphs. Carver passed one. It almost closed the door on him forever. Preserve evidence even when current technology can't analyze it. Those rootless hairs sat in storage for over 2 decades. Revisit old suspects when new science emerges. The forensic breakthrough itself has ripple effects. The Colorado lab that processed the hair has since taken on dozens of cold cases from across the country. Their technique, whole genome sequencing from degraded shaft material, is now being taught in forensic programs. Agencies that once discarded rootless hairs now bag and store them religiously. Louisiana State Police signed a contract with the lab in 2021, ensuring every cold case with hair evidence gets a second look. All because one detective refused to let a 20-year-old van disappear into history. Media coverage has evolved too. In 1997, information spread slowly. Flyers, local news, the occasional national segment. Today, a child can be on millions of phones in minutes. But long-term cases like Lily's show the other side of modern media. True crime podcasts, documentaries, social media campaigns that keep faces visible for decades. Some criticize it as morbid curiosity. Michael sees it differently. Every time someone shares Lily's age-progressed picture, he says, that's another set of eyes that might remember something, another conscience that might finally speak up. The foundation now has a full-time digital team monitoring tips from social media, coordinating viral campaigns on anniversaries, working with influencers who reach younger audiences. They've learned to be careful, no sensationalism, no false hope, just steady visibility. Perhaps the deepest lesson is about ambiguous loss. Psychologists use that term for grief when there's no body, no confirmation, no grave. The person is absent, but not declared dead. The mind stays in limbo. Michael and Laura lived it for 27 years. Therapists who work with the foundation say it's the hardest kind of grief. There's no ritual to mark the end, no place to visit, no finality to begin healing. Michael describes it like this: "It's like standing at the edge of the pool watching your child swim underwater. You know they need air eventually, but you can't see if they've come up on the other side. So you keep watching. You never walk away." The foundation now trains counselors specifically in ambiguous loss. They run support groups where families can say, "My child is still missing," without anyone trying to fix it or move them along. Because some wounds don't close, they just stop bleeding as much. And yet, out of that wound came protection for thousands of others. That's the paradox Michael lives with every day. A predator took his daughter, but because of what he and Laura built from the ruins, fewer predators succeed today. As of December 23, 2025, Lily Grace Harper has been missing for 28 years, 4 months, and 2 days. The case remains active. Detective Elena Brouchard is still assigned full-time, the only investigator in the parish with that luxury for a single cold case. New tips continue to come in, slower now, but steadier since the 2024 announcement. Most are dead ends, but each is followed up with. The spring 2026 radar scan of the concrete pad is confirmed. If it shows strong anomalies, excavation will follow, no matter the cost or disruption. Search teams plan another push into the Atchafalaya next summer when water levels are lower. New side-scan sonar equipment can map deeper channels than ever before. A documentary crew from a major streaming service began filming in fall 2025. Michael agreed only on the condition that the focus stay on prevention and the ongoing search, not exploitation. It's scheduled for release on the 29th anniversary, August 2026. The Lily Grace Harper Center opens its doors in March 2026. The dedication ceremony will be small, just staff, volunteers, a few families the foundation has helped. Michael will speak briefly. Laura will cut the ribbon. They still live in the same house. They still set 2 fewer places at holiday tables. They still release blue balloons every year. Michael turns 60 this year. His hands are more arthritic from decades of wrenching on engines. He sold the shop but kept a small bay in the back for foundation vehicles. He speaks to fewer schools now, lets younger staff take the lead, but he still shows up for the hard cases, the ones where a child has been gone weeks instead of hours. He tells new parents the same thing someone told him in 1997. You're going to survive today, and tomorrow will get through tomorrow. He doesn't promise their child will come home, but he promises they won't be alone. At night, when the house is quiet, Michael sometimes sits on the back porch and listens to the bayou. He no longer expects to hear Lily's voice calling from the dark, but he listens anyway, because hope for him has changed shape. It's no longer the wild, desperate hope of the early years that she was alive somewhere, raised by someone else, waiting to be found. It's quieter now, more stubborn. Hope that they will find her. Hope that they will bring her home. Hope that when they do, they can finally lay her to rest under a live oak, near water, where dragonflies skim the surface and cicadas sing in summer. Hope that on that day he can stand at the water's edge and say, "We found you, baby girl. You're safe now." Until then, the search continues. The foundation grows. The alerts keep saving children. And Lily Grace Harper, 8 years old, auburn hair still wet from the shower, humming her mermaid song under the floodlights, remains the quiet force behind it all. Her face on billboards, her name on alert texts, her story in classrooms, her absence in her parents' hearts, her presence in every child who learns to say no, to run, to yell, to live. That is what one stolen life can become when love refuses to let evil have the last word. Michael Harper put it simply in a speech last year. Carver thought he ended her story that night, but we're still writing it, every day, every child we teach, every law we change, every search we refuse to quit. Her story isn't over, and neither are we.
Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next videos, where we continue to follow the mysteries that have never slept. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned